Hello, my peeps, and welcome to today's special video. And hopefully, I'm releasing this on Thursday, July 11th. And if I am, it is my birthday. Yes, sir, Bob, born on 7/11, National Slurpee Day. What a day to be born on. And as I was going back and looking at video gaming back in 1972, I realized that there was a lot of iconic things that happened in 1972. Yes, yes, yes. Please don't do the math. Please, please, please don't do the math. You don't need to know how old I am. But, anyways, in today's video, we're going to go over some of those events that happened in 1972. And, of course, I don't remember any of them. So, I need you to sit on back, crack open your favorite beverage, because I guarantee by now I've probably had a lot of those favorite beverages, and enjoy today's episode. "1972 was a major year for the gaming industry as it saw its first ever video game console in the Magnavox Odyssey. It's kind of funny story about that Odyssey is that one of my friends had it, but it was like 10 to 12 years later when I discovered it, probably more into the 80s. The Odyssey came with what they would call game cards. There was 6 cards that came inside a box, and then there was overlays. So what you would do, you'd have your television screen, and you would put these plastic overlays over top of the screen. And then the Odyssey would perform these little white dots. And depending on the game that you're playing, the dots would correspond to the overlays. Those 6 cards, actually, you could play 12 games. There was table tennis, there was a skiing game, Simon Says, there was an analogic game, a hockey game, a football game, a cat and mouse game, a haunted house game, a submarine game, a roulette game, states game, and of course, there was a table tennis game. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But the Odyssey also came with dice, it came with poker chips, it came with score sheets, it came with money, it came with all kind of stuff that like normal board games of the time would come with, because it was in essence you were playing a board game on your TV screen. So in 1972, Magnavox would unveil the Odyssey, and watching that launch was a man named Nolan Bushnell. Now, Nolan Bushnell was one half of the partnership from Syzygy Engineering, and Ted Datney was the other partner of that company. Eventually, they would rename the company Atari. After watching the launch, Bushnell came up with a concept of a video game. He wanted the game to be a ping pong style game with a line dividing the screen and rectangular paddles on either side of the screen. It needed to be cheap, and it needed to use clever video position technique, is what he claimed. So he gave his idea to a man named Al Alcorn. And after 3 months, Alcorn came up with a prototype. It was in a wooden box, painted in orange, with a black and white TV screen inside it. It had 2 silver knobs, control the paddles on the screen paddles. He then welded a coin slot to the side of it, sort of like what they would find in laundromats at the time or on kiddie rides. And on a metal panel, he put the name Pong on the front of it. And that prototype would become the first version of Pong. So Alcorn, Bushner, and Dabney would drive that prototype to a nearby bar, and the bar was called Andy Cap. And why they picked that bar is because Bushner and Dabney both knew the owners from servicing the pinball machines that were already inside the bar. So once they installed the prototype, pretty much putting it on a barrel, the game was an instant success. Despite issues like the overfilled coin box turning off the machine, pool balls smashing off the side of it, beer and food getting inside it, and the fact that because those knobs needed to be turned 20 to 30 times per game and being played over and over and over and over again, and wearing out, the games brought 3 to 5 times the amount of money that a pinball machine would. Atari would go on and make 12 more Pong games. 10 of them would go in local bars around the area, and 2 were actually for the partners. Pong would become the first commercially successful video arcade game in November of 1972. Of course, Magnavox wasn't going to be too happy about this, and they would eventually sue Atari. Bushnell would settle out of court. He would then begin developing a Pong home game that Atari would release in 1975. He would then turn the company over to Warren Communications in 76 for $28 million, and then Warren Communications developed the first Atari 2600 that would come with 2 joysticks, paddle controls, and the game combat in 1977. But who cares about those years? It's about 1972. In 1972, the Magnavox unveils the Magnavox Odyssey, the first video game console to ever hit the home. And in 1972, Atari would make Pong, the first commercially successful video arcade game ever. And that, my friends, will conclude this video. If you liked it, please hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do that. Most importantly, happy birthday to me and all of you folks that have birthdays on July 11th. And as always, bye-bye, babies.